Good morning, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. It is Thursday, the 16th of April, and there's lots to talk about this morning. We've got to talk about Dermot Desmond, we've got to talk about the Scottish Cup. We'll talk about the Scottish Cup first of all before we talk about who is exactly making the decisions at Celtic regards of transfers and transfer policies. We've been linked with numerous players that are 10 million plus over the last couple of days, and we'll talk about that later on. But anyway, the Scottish Cup. Why is the Scottish Cup so important to Celtic? Not only Celtic fans, but fans all around Scotland. You've got to remember that the Scottish Cup that we're playing in this weekend started this year, well, this season, away back on the 30th of July 2025. The first game, one of the first games in the first round was Auchinleck Talbot versus Haddington Athletic, and Auchinleck Talbot won that game 4-0. When you go through some of the teams, it goes all the way down to junior football, and it is the romance of the cup. You know, Cumbernauld Colts versus Glasgow University, Carluke Rovers versus Gretna 2008. Wait a minute, why are Gretna now called Gretna 2008? Oh, that's right. They went into liquidation and died, didn't they? And had to change their name. Less we talk about that, the better. Berwick Rangers versus Nairn County, another game. Wick Academy versus Rothes FC. Bonnybrig Rose Athletic versus Broxburn Athletic. That'd be a local fight up, that one, wouldn't it? And it wasn't until the later stages of the Scottish Cup. I mean, there's some amount of games. Turf United versus Hullabeath. Hawthorn FC. University Stirling versus Burnt Island Shipyard FC. I didn't know that Burnt Island Shipyard still had a football club, because Burnt Island Shipyard's not got many employees in it. A couple of old geezers must be still in the team, as I'm watching dolphins jumping about the water outside. But anyway, when we move on, when you see some of these games that are being played in the Scottish Cup, it does give you the romance of the cup. You know, all these teams think that, yes, they would love to get a big team. They would love to get a Celtic. East Fife versus Arbroath. Dunfermline versus Queen of the South. St Johnstone played Cove Rangers. And these were all in early rounds when Celtic were, not even in it at this stage. The time that Celtic did get into the cup, I had Motherwell, Dundee United, Hearts, Livingston all coming into the cup around about the same time. And, Celtic have always had their eye on getting to the final. We come up against Auchinleck Talbot in the fourth round. Auchinleck Talbot away. Total romance of the cup stuff. Absolutely brilliant. But they played it at Kilmarnock Stadium. Nonsense. They took the cash. They took the cash rather than playing it at their own ground. They played it at Kilmarnock, and yeah, it kind of did the game at Kilmarnock against Auchinleck Talbot on that plastic pitch. Did it take away the I know there was a big group of Celtic supporters there, and they got the bigger payday being at that ground. But did it really take away that little bit of romance? We ended up going back to Celtic Park the next game, and we had Dundee at Celtic Park. It was 1-1 at half time. Celtic went on to win 2-1 to take us through to the next round of the Cup. That was back in round 5. Ultimately, Celtic drew Rangers. And it was away at Ibrox. Maybe one of the hardest games that we could have got in the Cup at that stage. Celtic weren't playing the best of football, but we had Martin O'Neill back. We had got rid of Wilfred Nancy, and we're going to talk about Wilfred Nancy in a minute, because the fact that he lost 6 games at Celtic, Jesus, where would we be? Because it's unusual for Celtic to lose 6 games in such a short period. Anyway, that game finished full time at 0-0. It went on to extra time. And ultimately went to penalties, and Celtic won that on penalties. And there was a bit of a meltdown, the fact that Celtic won on penalties. Celtic now find themselves going back to Hampden this weekend. The fans will be buzzing for this. I know what it's like going to Hampden, been there hundreds of times over the years. And you always think that you're going to get a good game, a good result. Playing against St Mirren, who have beat us at Hampden once already this year, statistically, it's the Scottish Cup. St Mirren, statistically, over the years, Celtic have beat St Mirren a lot more times than any other team, I think. But anyway, can Celtic do it this weekend? A lot of us will think yes. I think that Celtic will do it, and I think that I still think that it's going to be Neil Lennon versus Martin O'Neill in the dugout. It's written in the stars. It is written in the stars. And just thank God Peter Lawwell isn't there just to offer Neil Lennon the job after it. That's all that I'm saying. But anyway, what's going on at Celtic? What really is going on at Celtic? Sinisalo has been talking to the media, and it's weird because there's doesn't seem to have been in any big press conferences, but there's little stories getting leaked. Sinisalo has been talking to the media saying that he was meant to be the league in the League Cup and the Scottish Cup goalkeeper this season. That was the plan for him at the start of the season. You remember he did start a couple of cup games under the previous manager Brendan Rodgers, and then when Wilfred Nancy come in, he was dropped out well, yeah. Let's talk about less about Wilfred Nancy, and even when Martin O'Neill came in, before Wilfred Nancy, he was dropped out the team for Kasper Schmeichel. Where's Kasper now? But Sinisalo saying, it's funny how things were. There were plans, but obviously plans change when people change, which is completely understandable, says Sinisalo. We've had different managers at different times, and as a young keeper, you're a little bit unfortunate at the time, but I've just tried to keep my head down and always known that the opportunity would eventually come. I've tried to work as hard as I can to be ready for that opportunity, because you only get one career and you only get one shot at it. So there's no point wasting a day, which I haven't done and I never will do at Celtic. I pretty much understand that it's always about the next game. I want to just keep improving, getting better, and to try and showcase to people that I am the goalie. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear for Sinisalo. I think that he's a fantastic young keeper. I think that he has a little bit of he's a little bit younger than what the Holy Goalie was when he came to Celtic. No, he's a lot younger than what the Holy Goalie was when he came to Celtic. And I think if Celtic can really get him a good couple of defenders in front of him, I think going forward, he will be a fantastic keeper for Celtic over the next couple of years. Now, talking about defenders this season, when we look at last season, Celtic scored over the 38 games of the season. Celtic scored 112 goals. We only conceded 26 goals all season last year. Over the 38 games, we had 29 wins, 5 draws, and 4 defeats. In 33 games of this season so far, we've only had the 21 wins, 4 draws, and 8 defeats. I can't remember a season since, obviously, the 1990s. Is maybe the last time that Celtic lost 8 games in a season. We've only scored 59 goals this season. 59 versus 112. Unbelievable. We all know what the issue is. Those defeats under Wilfred Nancy cost us dearly in December. He was only in charge for 8 games. He had 2 wins, no draws, and 6 defeats in 33 days. I don't think that there's ever been a time in recent memory that we've lost 6 games in one calendar month. And it was no wonder that he was punted out the job after 8 games. I don't even like seeing his face anymore. I just don't even want to see his face. But anyway, talking about defenders and the fact that we've conceded so many goals, there's a big chunk of things that they're saying that, we need to get in a goal scorer. We need to get in a striker. We need to get in a couple of wingers that can make things happen for the strikers. One person that we have been linked with over the last couple of days is Casper Ho. We've kind of been linked with him before, but having reached the last 16 in the Champions League with Bodo Glimt, will he come to Celtic? And I don't think so. And where are Celtic getting all this cash from? Because, I mean, Casper Ho's going to cost us good money. You're not getting him for under 10 million. No way. If you're on about trying to get Scott McKenna, they're talking about 10 million for Scott McKenna. That's 20 million straight off the bat for two players. And for a player that plays in the same position as Scales and Trusty, I think that, I mean, who is ultimately, I mean, some people will say, yep, he's an upgrade. Celtic did try to get McKenna from Aberdeen years ago, and they just said no and ended up going down south. But there's no way are Celtic paying 10 million, 20 million for two players this summer. Not a chance. If it's only Norwich and Hearts looking at him, though. Norwich and Hearts looking at Cole. I'll tell you one thing, one team to watch out this summer in their spending plans is obviously Hearts, because they were sitting with that 10 million in the bank, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, because I think that they're, after Celtic, sitting with the highest amount of cash in the bank. Thomas Burns says Celtic will not buy any players at 10 million. Those days are gone. We need to know who the manager is first. Well, that takes me nicely on to the next bit. Yesterday, Celtic made, it was yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, Celtic made the announcement yesterday that Tom Allison had retired from Celtic. Dermot Desmond says Celtic's non-executive director and principal shareholder said, Tom has made an enormous personal contribution to Celtic. He has been a key advisor to me at all stages and brought his wisdom to many challenges which arose over the years. Tom is a person of vision, and he brought that vision to all he endeavours. The wisdom and experience of Tom brought to the Celtic board is unmatched and irreplaceable. I am indebted to him, wholeheartedly committed to our club. That's another person at the club that is getting away with making big decisions for the club that is not accountable. Yes, it's maybe a good thing that he has gone, but I mean, it does open up. It opens up more questions than answers, doesn't it? With Peter Lawwell not being replaced yet, Tom Allison now leaving the board, it's opened up two spaces that Dermot Desmond will need to find someone that he trusts to bring in. Because let's face it, it's the only thing that's going to happen. Anyway, tomorrow's a massive day, because we all know what's happening tomorrow. Martin O'Neill's getting to speak to the media. It'll be interesting to find out what happened with the bounce game this week. Celtic are on lockdown. Celtic are on lockdown with any leakage of information. There's absolutely nothing being leaked out of Celtic Park, and it makes you think, are Celtic just getting on with it behind the scenes, as they always should be? But it'll be interesting to see if two players are fit for the game this weekend. Callum Osmond, don't want to put a lot of pressure on that young lad, but if he can come on and score a goal, he scored quite an important goal for Martin O'Neill the first time Martin O'Neill was here. It was unfortunate that he then got injured. And then you have to think about, Alistair Johnston. We really need Alistair Johnston back. He's a big game player coming up to the World Cup, but will he... How many minutes will Alistair Johnston ultimately get on the pitch at Hampden? You definitely don't want him to have another reoccurrence of the injury that's had a reoccurrence and a reoccurrence. And I think he's had 3 reoccurrences anyway, going over this season. He was brought back way too early, wasn't he? But anyway, we go as. Lawwell's hiding in the showers at Hampden. He's went in there already. Paradise Huddle says, that's $1 million best question, Baz. The $1 million question is, when will Celtic announce the next manager? Historically, Celtic will need to get the manager announced before season tickets go on sale. When Ronnie Dyler left Celtic, we knew that he wasn't going to be there at the end. He announced it He announced it about 6 weeks 8 weeks maybe before the end of the season, said that he wasn't going to be here, and he did that to make sure that Celtic had enough time to bring in someone else. If they brought in Brendan Rodgers, it was around about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the end of the deadline for season ticket holders to renew their season ticket. Season ticket renewals will go out a week tomorrow. I think, going on previous years, a week tomorrow is the date to look out for season ticket renewals. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on Celtic tomorrow with the announcement from Willie Hawkey and about his plans for investing potentially £10 million into Celtic to give the fans a say on the board. That will cause enough ruckus in time. But when Celtic, there's dates that we need to be looking out for. Get this game done and dusted this weekend, get a win, get to the cup final. Massive, and love being at the Scottish Cup final, as we all do. It's a great way to end off the season. But between now and then, Celtic have got big decisions to make. And with those decisions is who in the background is making the decisions to even look at other players. That is the burning question that Celtic fans would want answered. Martin O'Neill's not going to give you the answer. There is absolutely no point in the media. The media never ask any decent questions anyway, will they? I mean, you can guarantee that the first question on Friday will be, how's the squad? Is everyone fit? And, what's your thoughts on this, that, and the next thing? And if the Willie Hawkey thing is out before the Martin O'Neill interview, all he's going to get asked about is that. And he's going to sit there and go, I've no idea what you're talking about, mate. No idea whatsoever. Do you want to maybe ask him about the game? And then he'll get repeated the same questions time after time. He will get asked about the last time we played St Mirren at Hampden later on. Will that have any effect on this game? It's going to be an interesting interview tomorrow, and we'll see what happens then. Anyway, other than that, it is just as you were as we wait for Celtic to tell us just something. And you know what Celtic's like? They'll fire out a whole load of new directors. They'll fire out right before the week before season tickets go out. So I think it could be a very busy week next week. Could be a very busy week at Celtic next week. Because ultimately, they're going to ask you to renew an increase in season ticket prices up to moving from £600 odd up to £700. And Fairies, Leprechauns, and Nessie are the new Celtic management team. Which one will we see first? To think how bad we are, and we can still do a double, says Joseph. Yeah, when you think about it. What it says to me is the other teams round about us haven't improved significantly. They're still Hearts have maybe improved slightly. Hearts said at the beginning of the season, look, we've got a 10-year plan to win the league. They didn't realise that Celtic were going to completely just implode this season. Nobody expected Celtic to implode the way that they did this season and get things so wrong so many times. But it's happened. Rangers, they're at about the same level as they were last year. Celtic, well, we all know, we've seen the score lines and the lost points. I think that all those games under Wilfred Nancy were just unbelievable. But anyway, we digress. I will be back for the final evening not watch along. That was for the. It's not even going to be this weekend, unfortunately. We'll be back for the last live of the week tonight, and then tomorrow's going to be interesting because I do have I'm going to have family coming over, so I will try and I'll get a live done in the morning, and then we'll try and get a live done later on in the afternoon once we find out what's going on with the Willie Hawkey stuff and what Martin O'Neill has to say for himself, the wily old fella that he is. I wonder if he'll get asked, are you going to be on the board next year, Martin? There'll be all sorts of questions that will have nothing to do to the game, with the game. As shite as we've been, without Nancy, we'd be on for a treble. Yes, we would. There's no disputing that. No disputing that at all. You're right, Chris. We've still got a chance there. Yes, we do. We still have a chance. And I think if we get a good result at Hampden, it always buoys you up, doesn't it? It always, it's like, this is our ground, really. Get the family alive, but I'll get my old man on. He'd just fucking. The first thing he would say is, fucking Celtic are fucking shite this season. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, right, that is me done and dusted for this morning. Have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are. And yeah, let's see what happens this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. See you later.